There's a familiar story we tell about the United States, one of a nation built on independence, self-reliance, on the idea that individuals make their own way. And while there is truth to that, it leaves out another quieter and less celebrated, but just as foundational aspect to the story: the act of joining. From its earliest days, American society was shaped not just by individuals, but by groups, voluntary associations, informal clubs, civic gatherings, spaces where people came together, not because they were required to, but because they chose to. One of the clearest early examples appears in 1727. A young printer in Philadelphia, Benjamin Franklin, helped organize a small discussion group known as the Junto. It met weekly. Its members asked questions about ethics, politics, and public life. But they didn't just stop at discussions. Those meetings came with concrete efforts, such as a lending library, fire protection systems, and other civic improvements. In other words, their association became action. What mattered wasn't just what they talked about, it was the structure itself. People gathering regularly, building trust, creating shared purpose. This pattern would repeat again and again. By the 1830s, this tendency had become visible to outsiders. A political observer from France, known as Alexis de Tocqueville, traveled across the United States trying to understand what made the country so different. What he found wasn't just democracy in theory, it was democracy in practice, at the level of everyday life. He noticed that Americans formed associations constantly, not occasionally, not reluctantly, but instinctively. Faced with a problem, social, political, or economic, Americans did something distinctive. They organized. This wasn't incidental. It suggested something deeper about how American society functioned. Collective action didn't always flow from the state. It often began with the ordinary people, coordinating amongst themselves. By the late 19th and early 20th centuries, this culture of joining had expanded dramatically. Fraternal organizations like the Masons, the Elks, and the Oddfellows drew millions of members. Civic groups such as Rotary and Lions Club structured community service and professional networks. Churches operated not only as religious institutions, but as social anchors. These organizations weren't just peripheral. They were embedded in the daily routines. They created regular interactions with the community, face-to-face, repeated, structured interactions. And that mattered. Participation began early. Children joined teams, clubs, scouts. They learned how to cooperate, how to follow rules, how to rely on others, and be relied upon themselves. By adulthood, joining wasn't just something people had to think about. It was already part of how they understood their place in civic life. Today, social scientists use a term to describe what emerges from these patterns: social capital. Not capital in the financial sense, but a resource built through relationships, through trust, through shared expectations, through networks that connected individuals to one another. When people interact consistently, when they cooperate over time, they can create something durable, a form of cohesion that makes collective action easier and communities more resilient. For much of its history, the United States generated this resource at scale, not through centralized design, but through routinized and ritualistic acts of participation, meetings attended, groups formed, relationships maintained. It's easy looking back to see these organizations as simple or even routine, but taken together, they formed an infrastructure of social connections within and beyond our communities, which leads to a question that is much less about the past and a whole lot more about the future. If this was once a nation that was defined by its habit of joining, what happens when that habit begins to fade? The United States today is in many ways more connected than ever before, digitally, economically, structurally, and yet, at the level of everyday life, something has shifted. The institutions that once brought people together no longer hold the same place they once did. Spaces that were routine gathering points, local clubs, civic organizations, informal meeting places, have thinned out or disappeared entirely. Sociologists often refer to these environments as third spaces. They're not home, they're not work, but somewhere in between. Somewhere where people gather freely, consistently, and without obligation. Those spaces still exist, but they don't always function in the same way. There's less interaction, less familiarity, and less continuity. And over time, that changes something fundamental. In recent years, researchers and public officials have pointed to a growing concern: rising levels of loneliness and social isolation. not just among the elderly, but across age groups. A condition that reflects not just how people feel, but how often they meaningfully connect with others. It's possible now to move through entire days, work, errands, entertainment, without any sustained face-to-face interaction, without being known or knowing others. At the same time, the structure of everyday life has become more specialized. Work is more segmented, roles are more defined, and intensification of the division of labor, where individuals perform narrower functions, often with fewer overlapping social ties. Efficiency increases, but shared experience decreases. Economic and social stratification also shape how people experience civic life. Communities are more segmented by income, by education, geography, and many of the institutions that structure daily life, from workplaces to media environments, operate at a scale far larger than the local. The result is a shift in orientation, from local participation to more distant, less personal forms of engagement. These changes are visible in one of the most basic measures of civic life: participation. In national elections, voter turnout in the United States has historically fluctuated, often falling below that of many other established democracies. While turnout can increase in certain election cycles, participation is not consistent, and large portions of the population regularly abstain. But turnout alone doesn't tell the whole story. Surveys over time have shown that many individuals feel disconnected from the process itself, that their participation carries little weight, that the system is distant and difficult to influence. And when that belief takes hold, engagement can begin to feel less like a responsibility and more like a mundane chore, something that is done out of obligation rather than an investment. At the same time, the tone of civic discourse has changed. Public conversation, particularly in political context, is often marked by division, by polarization, by a growing distance between groups who no longer share the same spaces, or even the same sources of information. Without regular face-to-face interactions across differences, it becomes harder to build trust, harder to sustain dialogue, harder to maintain the kinds of relationships that make disagreement manageable. Taken together, these shifts point to something broader. Not just any single trend, not just declining membership in organizations, not just lower participation in civic activities, but a gradual weakening of the connective tissue that once linked individuals to one another and to their communities. The change is not always visible in any one single moment, but over time, its effects accumulate. What we are facing is not just a series of isolated challenges, but something more systematic, a quiet, widespread shift in how people relate to one another and to the structures that surround them. What we face is a decline of social capital in our lives.
My name is Ken Hicks. I'm a faculty member at the Rogers State University. I've been department head of history and political science since fall of 1999. Or no, I've been department head since 2008, summer of 2008. I'm a political theorist by training, so I'm very interested in sort of the intersection between politics and culture, how culture is both used politically, but also how culture just kind of emanates and reflects culture, reflects people's political attitudes. I would hypothesize that, I mean, obviously people have been talking for a long time about how kind of political organizations have kind of receded at the local level and increasingly have manifested kind of at the national level as political competition over major national programs, Social Security, Medicare, just control of government have become increasingly national. There have been less and less in terms of political organizing locally. And I suspect that means that you're seeing more people that are trying to find meaning at the local level more in a grassroots manner than was probably the case in the past. Increasingly, local governments are being presented with challenges that they simply can't meet. They don't have the resources. It's one of the reasons why we have so many local governments. There are over 90,000 local governments these days, and a lot of that reflects the fact that county governments and municipal governments, those are the largest kind of local government entities, are facing challenges that they simply can't fund themselves. They can't raise taxes enough. more often than not, they have to put tax hikes on before voters who often reject them. And so it's the challenge that a lot of Americans are what we call mini maxers. They want the most, or the maxi minners actually. They want the most that they can get from government, but at the least price. And with government, as with so many things, you get what you pay for. And so again, at the local government, people, at the local level, people see the inability of government to respond to a lot of kind of collective action kind of problems, and they want to step into the breach. They get a better community. I mean, they get a community where there's more social space. They get a community where people feel more engaged, where they feel like they know their neighbors better, where there's a better sense of community. I think that's one of the kind of tragic aspects of the suburbanization of America. That so often people live in communities where they don't even know their next door neighbors. You live in a separate house, you may wave at them occasionally, but you don't really know them. And the more you're able to interact with people in a community and get to understand who they are and what their history is, the more you feel a sense of connection and a willingness to be connected and to help them, in times of need. Because it's absent, and because I think connection is a human, it's necessary. You Aristotle called us social animals. Uh, we need that sense of community, I think. But it's better if if that sense of community is spontaneous and voluntary in nature, rather than what Rousseau used to call holding people's noses together. I think that level of coercion, which is not unknown in in human history. I think part of the American experiment is that government would not try to compel people to have community. Well, it's never been easier to form these kinds of bonds. It's never been easier to get information off the internet. Of course, you have to be careful and make sure you're not being led astray by misinformation or disinformation. But there are people out there, if you look for them, that actually want to be engaged. You just have to identify something that you care about and learn about it.
At some point, the changes in American civic life became too consistent to ignore. Not just isolated trends, but a pattern. A pattern that raised a deeper question. What exactly are we losing when we stop joining? In the late 20th century, one scholar set out to answer that question. Robert Putnam, a political scientist, began studying long-term changes in American civic engagement. What he found wasn't centered on one institution or one generation. It was broader than that, a measurable decline across multiple forms of participation. One of the most well-known observations came from an unlikely place: bowling alleys. More Americans, he found, were bowling than ever, but fewer were doing it in leagues. They were bowling alone. That distinction became symbolic because it captured something subtle but important: the difference between doing something individually and doing it together. At the center of Putnam's work is the concept of social capital theory. The idea that relationships themselves have value, that networks of trust, cooperation, and shared norms make societies function more effectively, not just socially, but politically and economically as well. When people are connected, they are more likely to participate, more likely to trust one another, more likely to solve problems collectively. Social capital, in this sense, is a kind of infrastructure, not physical, but relational. According to Putnam's findings, that infrastructure has weakened over time. Memberships in civic organizations declined, participation in community activities dropped, even informal social interactions like regularly spending time with neighbors or friends became less frequent. This wasn't a single observation. It was built from decades of data. Putnam analyzed surveys, membership records, voting trends, and participation rates across a wide range of institutions, from labor unions and religious organizations to clubs, associations, and volunteer groups. what emerged was a consistent pattern. It was consistent across different measures, across different regions. Engagement was declining, not disappearing entirely, but thinning out. And importantly, this decline wasn't limited to formal organizations. It extended into everyday life, into how people gathered, into how they trusted, into how they connected. So why does this matter? It matters because social capital isn't just about community, it has consequences. Communities with higher levels of social connection tend to have more effective local governance, higher levels of civic participation, and stronger collective problem solving. When those connections weaken, coordination becomes harder, trust becomes more fragile, and institutions, both formal and informal, become less responsive. The image of bowling alone, it's simple, but the implications are not. It suggests a shift away from shared experiences and towards something more isolated. It's not the end of community, but a transformation of it. One where participation becomes less collective and more individual. But if social capital has declined, the next question is why? What changed? Not just in behavior, but in the structures that once sustained participation. At some point, these changes in American civic life become too consistent to ignore. Not just isolated trends, but a pattern that raises a deeper question. What exactly are we losing when we stop joining? Up to this point, this has been a story about decline, about what's been lost, about systems, structures, and patterns that are bigger than any one person. But this story doesn't end there, because even within this broader shift, there are still places where connection is happening. Not at scale, not always visible, but real connections. Sandlot is most certainly one of these places. At its core, it's simple. It's not a large institution. It's not a formal organization in the traditional sense. But it's a space where people show up, where they interact and spend time with one another. There's no requirement to being there, no complex structure holding it together. And that's part of what makes it beautiful, what makes it different, and what makes it right. In a landscape where many forms of civic life have become more distant, more managed, more abstract, Sandlot operates at a different level. At a local level, at an immediate level, at a relational level. Sandlot creates repeated face-to-face interaction, the kind that doesn't rely on formal membership, but still builds familiarity. Over time, people start to recognize each other, conversations carry over, and connections form. In this sense, it begins to resemble something we've already seen, not in scale, but in structure. In a space that exists between home and work, a place where people return to, a place where interaction isn't transactional. It's just part of being there. It doesn't solve every problem, it doesn't rebuild civic life on its own, but it does do something very important, something increasingly rare. It creates the conditions for connection. And if social capital is built through repeated interaction, through trust, through simply showing up, then places like Sandlot raise a different kind of question. Not just a question about what we've lost, but what it might actually look like to build it again.
Well, my name is Martin Bonifazi. Born and raised here in Tulsa. I've been a Breeze since the very beginning. I am an OG Breeze. We started, late 2018, 2019-ish, early 2019, and man, answering that question is hard for me. What Sandlot means to me, because whenever I try to explain what Sandlot means or try to tell other people about Sandlot, it's just, I feel like they don't understand it or don't get it if they're not inside of it. What it, but I just remember going out there first time. I got invited from a guy named Brett Spears and Daniel Gomez, which is on my team now. And Brett Spears asked me if I wanted to go out there, and he was a dad another dad from my child's school, and I was just thinking that it was just a bunch of guys that weren't really serious about baseball, just a bunch of dads just being active just for fun. But man, it's so far from that. I thought I was gonna be a rumbler because it was just rumblers versus rumblers. There was only one team when I started, and then luckily I didn't become a rumbler, and they branched off to another team called the Breeze, and there was just about 5 or 6 of us, and we were all looking at each other like, what are we gonna do next? Because another guy that made the Breeze, he left and went on to college, and man, it went from wearing this is my original shirt that we made, and one guy, he put, or two people on the Breeze, Mantle and Tradon, they put the Breeze right here from Hobby Lobby. and then I just knew right then, these are my people right here. Like, one guy's an artist, and he threw it from left field over the backstop. We're all just amazed, and he said he hasn't played since he was in elementary, and we're like, holy cow, like, this man has an arm on him. And then he's just started, throwing it like 90 miles per hour right to you, and then hurt your hand, and I'm like, okay, this is serious. But what I didn't realize at the time, and that I was creating history, and that was like the biggest thing that Sandlot means for me, of really reflecting on it, is that, like, we have grown from nothing. I've seen people come and they go, and then they get the bug, and we're still here together to this day, and it's more like family, culture. I kind of think of it as every team has its own culture. If you don't fit in on one team, you can go to another team, and you're gonna find a place from somewhere, somebody, because it's all over the nation, and people coming together with community, and bring your family out, the smell of hot dogs on the grill, dugouts laughing, but everybody, all of a sudden there might be a little difference on the play, on the call of the play, and there might be some arguments, but all together, everybody knows that we are all family. No matter what team you play for, you could be, all women's team, you could be, all guys team that are super good, but they still understand that we're all here together just to play baseball, and to build, fields up, because that's what Sandlot comes from, is like the movie, and you get to be a kid again as an adult. And like, I played every sport and done recreational activities and played golf and all that stuff, but it's nothing like a feeling of holding a baseball bat and putting on whatever you want, and chewing gum, smoking a cigarette, drinking a beer, and then and you just get this, I'm in elementary school again, and like, these are my friends, these are my brothers, these are my people that on and off the field that I'm gonna be with, and it's just changed my life completely since the day I started. And like I said, we've grown tremendously and got to travel the world. I say the world because one day we're gonna go to Japan or somewhere. But we've made it to New York, and that feels like traveling the world to me with my friends, because, there's just no better feeling to being in a broke down motel, or being in, some real fancy place in New Orleans, and, and losing a tooth. So, every day is a trial and tribulations, but we just grow from each other and love each other and support each other, and there's just no other feel of it. And that's the best way I can explain what it means to me, is that it's very important in my life, just like almost anything else in my life. But that's pretty much it.
My name is J.R. Phillips. I've been involved in Sandlot since the current iteration, since the beginning. I was one of the first 4 or 5 playing at Heller Park together with just a couple of bats, a couple of baseballs. That was about, it's gonna be 7 years ago this spring. So I played for the Tulsa Rumblers. And what Sandlot means to me, I've played high school baseball, college baseball, so played at a pretty high level. And I want to say my Sandlot career is so much more impactful than my actual baseball career. You typically don't make friends in your late 30s, late to mid 30s. But I've got 50, 60 friends now, guys I can call up on the phone. If I needed something from them, they would be there right away. Just the amount of amazing people that you meet, and it's just like no one's a dick. Everyone's like really cool, and it's just amazing how we all mesh together. Even different teams, all from different backgrounds and different ideologies, different political beliefs, religious beliefs, but yet we all come together under the banner of baseball. Like it's truly the gospel of baseball, just the purity of the game, playing with wood bats, playing 9 innings, 90-foot bases. It's just something pure about it. Brings us back to when we were kids. We can live out our dreams, our failed dreams. We can still go out and compete even as old men. And then it's fun when we get some younger guys and we can get to challenge them and feel what it's like to hit a fastball, or to throw a pitch by someone, or to make a diving play. So, I mean, Sandlot means so much to me right now. It's a big part of my life. Baseball has always been a big part of my life, but I'm so glad I have this avenue that I can still go out and play. And, I feel like we still play at a pretty high level. A lot of guys who started who had never played before, at this point now, like they're playing at the same equivalency, I would say, of high school players. So I really think that we've got a great group of guys, a great league. So to me, Sandlot means so much, and I'm glad to be a part of it.
My name is Missy Boudiette, and I've been affiliated with Sandlot for 7 years. My partner Derek plays with the Rumblers, and my story is I've never been a big sports fan. I don't know a lot about sports. I didn't play sports growing up. I I'm not good at sports personally, and I don't have, like national teams that I'm a fan of. But the Rumblers is my team. They are my neighborhood team that I cheer for. And because of Derek, coming out to watch him play and just being in the stands with other partners and family members and friends, I've built a community too. I've made friends because of Sandlot that I wouldn't have met outside of this connection. And it's caused me to love baseball and learn about baseball and how it works and all that kind of stuff. You still won't see me getting on the field, but I love coming out and supporting what these guys are doing. And, I haven't met anyone who isn't a great person affiliated with Sandlot. Like, all these people are just good people. They show up for each other. outside of the game. They've shown up for us, many times around the house, and supporting Derek's baseball team has been huge. We have neighbors that we know through Sandlot. It's become a part of my life, and I don't even play. And I'm just really grateful for the community that has formed just around the game of baseball. And it's made me appreciate sports, and baseball in particular, when I've never been a sports person. So I love Sandlot, and the Rumblers are the best, especially number 3.
Thank you so much, Missy.
All right, I'm Aldi with the East Dallas Booze Hounds, 37 years old. We started the East Dallas Booze Hounds in 2022. Sandlot is all about having fun with my friends. Baseball, just like, I never expected to like make new friends playing baseball. Most of my team is people I've known from the past, but the Dallas community and just playing teams from out of town, like, I feel like I've made like 400 new friends in the last 4 years, which is awesome. I just love baseball. It's great.
What's up? I'm Dylan O'Carroll. I am 33 years old. I'm a licensed professional counselor. I got involved in Sandlot around 2022. First as a player, I just came out wearing some Reeboks and some blue jeans. Eventually worked my way up into getting some spikes. I was invited to play with the Jesters by Adam Humble, and I played for the Jesters for 3 years. Then I got invited by Josh Lynch to start a new team, be a baseball guy for him, and help him manage the T-Town Bullies. Go Bullies. What does Sandlot mean to me? Sandlot is a place where people can come and they can get some social activity, but they can also get some exercise. They can also, to me, it's been emotionally healing, because this is a place where I work things out. This is a place where I can be in center field thinking about things I've done wrong, things I've done right. It's a place where I might share a moment in a parking lot with a guy for 3 hours and talk about, life and fuck ups and grace and all kinds of wonderful human qualities. And it's a place where I get to recognize my own frailties and flaws. And it's a place where I get to grow. Not only as an athlete, that's a secondary part. If I want competition, I get to have it here, but really, it's just a place where I get to be in community with people and learn about myself. So that's what Sandlot means to me. It's a place where I get to know my heart a little bit better.
Hi, I'm Zach Dela Cruz. I am 47 years old. I work construction. I'm from Bixby, Oklahoma, and I play for the Tulsa Sandlot Outlaws. I started the Outlaws as a co-manager with my good friend Deontay Hawkins in 2021, and we've been going strong for 5 straight years. Baseball to me is everything. I'm a veteran, and it's a release from daily activities. It's a release from the sorrowful ways that this world can be, and it just gives me a release to be with my friends, and I love them dearly.
Hey guys, I'm Zane. I'm 35. I'm from Tulsa. I'm a comedian. Used to be a bus driver for 3 years. Really like doing that, helping the community, things like that. I guess what Sandlot means to me is it's that sport that we all grew up loving as a kid, and it's an opportunity for all ages to continue to play in a no pressure environment where you can just have fun and people aren't hard on you and nobody's getting bullied or anything. So it's just a lot of fun. So thank you.
Hey, how you doing? My name is Josh Lynch. I'm 47 years old. I'm a caterer, got a food truck. Some refer to me as the hot dog king. What does Sandlot mean to me? Brotherhood, friendship. I actually got sober when I started coming to Sandlot, and so Sandlot has helped me with my sobriety. Go Bullies.
nombre es Jorge Suárez y me gusta venir a jugar base con Tulsa Ramblers, con la gente que conozco, porque aquí hace uno amigos, te conoces entre amigos, haces la amistad. Me gusta jugar béisbol. Gracias. Hola, mi nombre es Jorge Suárez de Sandlot. To me is like enjoy your time here, to come over here, make a friend, enjoy your time. I like play baseball and I like everything here. I'm so happy to play here to these people. Thank you.
My name is Cole Finesilver. I'm 23. I'm from Tulsa, Oklahoma. I'm in sales. And what Sandlot means to me is coming out here every week or every chance we get and just playing baseball with the guys, hanging out under the lights. I mean, spend a lot of time out here, the camaraderie, and just getting to hang out, see everybody kind of progress and help people through their lows and highs in life. It's just a really good time to be out here. Like to spend time with these guys, and they're a bunch of fun. So, yeah, that's what Sandlot means to me.
So my name's Joe. I play with the White Rock Mudbugs in Dallas, Texas. I'm 35. I'm a lawyer. I've been doing Sandlot for 4 years now, and I love Sandlot because I love playing baseball. But the nice thing about Sandlot is it lets you play competitively, but it takes out a lot of the toxicity that you can get in some of the other leagues. So it's really fun to play. And as a woman, it's been really nice to have a league that's open to having everybody play, regardless of your gender or where you come from, or even if you've ever played before. So yeah, it's a blast, and I love it every day.
All right, my name is DeLon Smith. They call me Papa D. 00 for the Tulsa Breeze. What Sandlot means to me is it's my religion. This is what I do since my mother passed. Played all during elementary and middle school and high school, college. And hurt my arm. Was that close to making it, but I didn't. And then after '94, I didn't play no more until I walked out here. And at the time, I was a caregiver for my mother who had aneurysm and was invalid, and I was the only person that she had to take care of her, and she wasn't going to no nursing home. So she was 24/7 on my mind, but came out here one day and heard the crack of that bat, and it just sent me back. And I watched him for a few months and everything, see if it was actually real. And one day I told my mama, I want to go out there and see what it's about. And she told me, boy, go out there and do that, because you're going to need it. You're going to love it. And when I'm gone, you're going to be able to do that and keep yourself happy. And she was right. So it's family, it's community, it's love, and I wouldn't trade it for the world. Right about now, the breeze is pretty good. When we started out, we was just starting out, and now we done made that pinnacle change to where it's like with the addition of some good men who can play ball. There's the sky's the limit, as they say. So I wouldn't have it any other way. And if I had to die right now, I'd die happy, because I've been able to do something that I've been dreaming about doing my whole life, and with a lot of other like-minded people who likes to do it too, and likes to play baseball, not softball, but baseball. And it's just a beautiful thing, and I thank the Lord every day. And that's pretty much what it means to me. So if you want to do this, hey, or if you think you want to do this, you play ball, man, you need to come. If you listen to this and you ain't done this, come on out here and enjoy this fun, because I guarantee it'll change your life. And with that, we'll cut. Look, let's do it. Cut. You know what I'm saying? And that's it. You know what I'm saying? I cut it off.
My name's Chuck Pittman. I'm from Webb City, Missouri. As a profession, I'm a logistics coordinator at Cardinal Scale Manufacturing. They're a manufacturer of scales in Webb City, Missouri. I've been coming to the Sandlot here in Tulsa for 2+ years. For me, I was a baseball player many moons ago, back in the 90s, and got into my early 50s and wanted to get motivated to get back in shape. And as I started getting in better shape, I just had this itch I had to scratch by playing some more baseball. I wanted to get back and pitch a little bit more. And thanks to Sandlot Ball. Even though it's a 2+ hour drive, tonight actually a 3-hour drive, it's absolutely worth it for me. So it keeps me motivated. It keeps me getting up early in the morning and walking and picking up heavy things and eating the right foods and doing all the things I need to do to get back out here.
So I'm Daniel Gomez. I'm 43 years old. I'm a lawyer. I've been involved in Sandlot for 7 years now, since 2019. Sandlot for me is a way to hang out with some good friends, play a game that I love without a whole lot of pressure because I'm not that good, and I think that's what we do.
What's up? Hello, my name's Katie. I play with the Dallas Bombers in Oak Cliff Sandlot. I am a licensed counselor, so I spend my days talking to people and then I get to spend my nights playing baseball, and it's so fun. And what Sandlot means to me is a place to put down our phones, get in the dirt, and just get to be with people, and that's awesome. And it's the most supportive, encouraging place to be bad at something and also learn something new, and then when you are good, it's awesome. And so, yeah, that's all.
Thank you so much.
Hi, I'm Ronald Guillory. I am 38. I live in Jinx, Oklahoma. I am a professional commercial cultivator, and this is my second season in Sandlot. Sandlot has been a bridge to family time for me, and being able to bring my kids out and give them an outlet has been very helpful. Sandlot is community at its best when you're getting a bunch of guys with different views together and have pure fun is priceless. So I just look forward to growing in Sandlot and seeing where it takes us.
My name is Sean Turska. I'm 44 years old. Yeah, 44. I've been in Sandlot since 2021, and I would say initially Sandlot Sunday or Sandlot was just something to do. Just a lot of us were coming out of the COVID year. It was very weird. You felt a little disconnect from most of humanity, and then I came out to Sandlot Sunday one day and thought to myself, I could definitely do this. That was May of 2021, and by the end of that year, I had formed a team. I had gotten married at Lacey Park. It was the first Sandlot wedding in Tulsa. And ever since then, this community has just been, it's been about holding each other up, helping each other out, giving all these guys and girls a place to just come out and have fun, play baseball without the I would say, oppressive stigma that comes with trying to be better than what you actually are. We get to be ourselves, we get to have fun, make friends, and that's what's most important out here.
All right, you're good. Go.
Nice.
Good hit, baby.
Yeah, my name's Howard Carey. I am been a Texas Playboy for 20 years. Started Sandlot Revolution in Austin, and I also have the Meantime batting cage in Austin, Texas. And Sandlot is incredibly important to me. It's a huge part of my life. It's something I want to see spread around the world, expanded into kids baseball. Sports in general have gotten overly competitive, and I play college football, but I've never had as much fun as I have playing Sandlot, and it approaches play in a way that adults don't get to enjoy very often. And I've said this very many times, my favorite moment ever as a Sandlot player, I was about to go hit, and an 8-year-old standing next to his dad, he looks up and he said, "I didn't know adults could have fun like this." And to me, that says it all. We need to play more. We need to show them they can play, enjoy themselves as they get older, and it's just an incredible community.
My name is Brett Spears, and I play with the Tulsa Rumblers here in Tulsa, Oklahoma. It was like early 2019, I think. So This is my 8th season with the Rumblers. The Rumblers were kind of just coming into existence, rounding the winter of 2018 into 19, and I think I came out to my first pickup game like May 2019, something like that. Was the first time I ever like had that experience of like, I'm gonna play baseball. Am I sure about this? Who are these people? But I got an invite from, a guy who our kids went to school together, and I got to know him over a couple years. And he was like, "Yeah, come out, play some ball," and I did, and I'm so glad that I did. Like all relationships, there's the honeymoon phase where everything is like, you're starry-eyed and you're pumped and you're buying swag and you're trying to like relearn a pitch or see how good you might be or what's left in the tank, or maybe you have some delusions left over about like your glory days or whatever, which mine were done by the time I was 12, and I picked this back up at 39. So I didn't have a whole lot of that, but there's that kind of immediate excitement, and then you get into it and get into the life of the community, and you face challenges and injuries, and in some cases you lose people. You either lose teammates who just don't come back again, or you actually lose people along the way. And so you kind of go through the more normalizing that experience, and then you have those really rich moments too, where like, we have teammates and people in our community are now sharing the game with their son, for instance, or their daughter or their wife. And so there's like that kind of like refreshment of your own spirit about it. And so it definitely has undulations and a maturation process that has its peaks and valleys. I think there's an element to Sandlot that's like there's a second life, kind of like there's a redeeming quality that's available in this whole sort of social experiment, where you get a chance to come back to something that you thought you had lost, maybe forever, and all of a sudden it's there and it's available to you in its innocence again. And it's sort of a shocking and beautiful thing to realize that this thing that meant something to you, and maybe it even damaged you along the way, right? Like maybe you have some trauma or some regret or some loss that was associated, some grieving associated with, the last time you ever got to play high school ball and you didn't get to play college ball, and that was a big part of what you wanted, or maybe the time slipped by in a way, as it so easily does, where you didn't get to say goodbye and you didn't know that it was going to be gone because you were too young and dumb to kind of know what you had, or whatever it may feel like. Maybe someone told you weren't good enough to join in at the level of competition that was insisted on by the societal expectations or the venues for gameplay. And all of a sudden there it is again. It's right there, and you can do it. You can come and you can play and you can ply the craft, and you can feel the rattle of the bat in your hands when it touches the ball, and you can smell the leather of the glove, and you can share fate with 15 other people who are pulling on the rope with you, hoping against hope that they don't bumble, they don't make a mistake, they don't miss the ball. And so there's a second life quality and a redemptive quality, I think, to it that is really precious. I think for me, it came to me at a time where I was sort of coping with, for myself, some loss in terms of physical capability. I'd been diagnosed with sort of diffuse and broad spread orthopedic problems, specifically back then my knees, and then since then my neck and my shoulder and my hips and that sort of thing. But I was just learning that my chosen passion, which had been basketball for so long, was really probably hastening the breakdown of my body and hurtling me towards early stage replacements, and that was a grievous thing for me because it meant a lot to me. discovering Sandlot sort of gave me an ability to say goodbye to that and rekindle a love for what was my first boyhood love in terms of sports. And it gave me the ability to accept the limitations of what I could do in a healthy way, like not a giving up way, but a going forward way. Giving what I could to what was good in my life rather than sort of recoiling to reality and creating self-destructive habits. So it showed up for me at a wonderful time. And then the other thing that I'll say, unless you ask for more, is, I mean, everyone talks about community when it comes to Sandlot, and rightly they should. To me, there's sort of this joke about how not enough attention is paid to the greatest miracle that Jesus was able to pull off in his time on this earth, and that was that he had more than 12 close friends after the age of 30. And I think that, like, you know, we live in a world, in a state of being where loneliness is endemic, and mental health is an endemic, and the fracturing and the individuation of all people due to pressures of the status quo, you know, normative rates of production, commodity culture, late stage capitalist culture, whatever. We're often pitted against, or at least away from one another when we do our work and live our lives. And it's easy to forget how to be with other people, and it's hard to make bonds sometimes because of that. And this venue is just about the best that I've ever seen at bringing people together from disparate walks of life, from different colors and creeds, backgrounds, sexual orientation, races, religions, age brackets, socioeconomic brackets, and allowing them to share space in a way that is disposed to friendliness due to the common bond of this game's difficulty. And it's a wonderful, wonderful thing. And it's been a joy to be a part of it and to benefit from that. I want people to know that it's available. I think any Sandlot player worth their salt wants the next right person to find what we found, because we know what it meant to us. And I think that sense of unconditional invitation to other folks who might, you know, if you need a space to be, if baseball is in your soul, if you need a community and a place to, you know, to exercise those types of things that I just enunciated, that it's here, it's out here, we're out here all across North America, you know, all across the globe. People are trying to revitalize, adults trying to revitalize play and egalitarianism, innocence, and to find ways to be where just being and showing up is enough, and that's celebrated in community. So what I want people to know about Sandlot is that we out here and you can be a part.
All right, I'm Patty Evans. I'm 49. I am the president of the Oak Cliff Sandlot Association, and I am one of the managers of the 86ers, Oak Cliff 86ers. I'm from Dallas, Texas. I forgot else what you were asking me. All right, cool. I'm Patty Evans. I am 49 years old. I'm from Dallas, Texas. I am the president of the Oak Cliff Sandlot Association, and I'm also the manager of the Oak Cliff 86ers here at Oak Cliff Sandlot. For work, I am a fraud investigator for a bank, and Sandlot to me, it's all about inclusivity. I mean, that's what it's all about. It's about anybody can play, anybody. All you have to do is have a passion to either hang out with people or play baseball or both. That's it.
My name is Jeff Davison. My player name is Mick Jeff. What Sandlot means to me, I've played Sandlot for, this will be my third year on the Jesters. What Sandlot means to me is a time for me to bring back my childhood, playing a game that I love, that I never thought that I would play again. And then I found this beautiful arrangement of people that accepted me and brought me in, which I enjoy everyone here. I learned today that I think it helps with my mental stability to play. The reason I say I just thought of this today is because we were supposed to have a game this weekend and it got canceled, and I was super bummed. Like, brought me down, and then they're having the Sandlot game today and it just brought my spirits back up. So Sandlot means to me is just happiness and enjoying life and with all my brothers out here in the Sandlot community.
I'm Doug Root. I've been in Sandlot for about 2.5 years now. Sandlot to me is just getting together a bunch of guys that I like. We're gonna recut that one, actually. My name's Doug Root. I've been in Sandlot for about 2.5 years, and I love getting together a bunch of guys that think like I do and want to play ball.
All right, my name is Roman Oralt. I'm 38. Profession, I'm in technology sales. I'm involved with Sandlot since 4 years. And what Sandlot means to me, you know, these guys are all my friends. I actually moved here from Raleigh, North Carolina, and I was by myself. I did triathlon, so I stayed physically active. But when I found this, it opened a whole new community and passion for baseball and passion for Tulsa, Oklahoma. And these are my friends that I'll have for the rest of my life.
My name's Hunter Price. I live in Bixby. I'm a contractor here in Tulsa. Been with Sandlot for 2 years. It's got me out of the house. Got my daughter back in softball. It's meant a lot to us, and it's a good community. Join it.
My name's Morgan McClellan. I'm 35. I work in movies and TV shows. I currently reside in Tulsa. I'm involved with Sandlot. I play out here. I occasionally work on the field like once every 3 years. Painted some signs out here. Sandlot to me is just an opportunity to just forget about stuff and just, you know, have fun. That's it.
Thank you so much.
Yes, sir.
All right, Roy Van of the Dallas Bombers here in Dallas, Texas. I'm 35 years old. Been in Sandlot for 2 years now. Started the Dallas Bombers here last year. This is our second year. What Sandlot means to me is camaraderie, competition, fun, relaxation. It's a good way to spend a weekend. So yeah, happy to be out here for the OCS Barnstorm.
Hi, my name is Christopher Michael Mantle. I'm 41 years old. I was born in 1984, July 9th. Makes me a Cancer. I came to Sandlot in 2019. I didn't want to. I was real reluctant. I like to play bike polo, but Traydon Brown and his brother Torrey Brown convinced me otherwise. Now I'm a Sandlot All-Star. Or should I say, Y'all-Star. Also played for the Breeze. Man, Sandlot's a sense of community, engagement, and activity that I love to get involved with. I like to volunteer, I like to drink beer. Well, I used to, now I steer clear. But I'm here for fun times, baseball swinging yards, and Isaiah, what else did you want me to say on this interview?
Tell me what Sandlot means to you.
Oh, Sandlot means boudin. Lots and lots of boudin. Boudin links from their ears to years. I'm here for the boudin. Although they don't serve boudin. If they did, I'd come more often.
You're live. You just look into the camera and you'll say your name, how long you've been affiliated with Sandlot, and what does Sandlot mean to you?
All right. My name is Derek Dyson. I play for the Tulsa Rumblers. I think this is our 7th or 8th year together, so that would be my 9th or 10th year in playing old man baseball in Tulsa. Um, what it means to me? It means a lot to me, honestly. It's most of my social life now is tied up in Sandlot. Um, just because it's like the one thing I do outside of work and school and stuff. Um, I think one of the best aspects about it is that I've made like 50 new friends in Tulsa, and I don't even know how many friends across the country through this thing. And you don't really make friends in your 30s and 40s. Like, dudes really don't make new connections like that outside of work. So, to make those kind of connections just playing baseball with your friends, I don't know. It brings us, I think, like a kind of nostalgia from when we were kids, when it was like carefree playing baseball with your friends. And being on a team, I think, is a unique thing that people our age don't really get to do either. You don't really have that after childhood. But there's something about being on a team where other people are dependent on you or you're dependent on them. Um, it builds a weird community that you can't really get other places, I don't think. I don't know. I see people on Reddit all the time asking like where they can find community, and I just want to tell everybody to play Sandlot, but that doesn't fit for everybody. But for a small niche of dudes who grew up playing baseball or didn't in some cases, it's made like a place for people to go and be carefree. Like the best part for me is that I don't think about the world when I'm on the baseball field, especially like when I'm up at bat. I don't think about anything. I just like black out when I'm up there. But in my day-to-day life, I'm just like driving around stressing about the world, about politics and social issues and everything that comes with the world. But for a few hours on the baseball field, I don't think about any of that stuff, which is a nice escape that I didn't have before that. Um, when it comes to the Tulsa Sandlot scene, Tulsa's unique in a lot of ways. Oklahoma, even as a historian, and I love Oklahoma and how crazy our history is. But Tulsa's unique in the Sandlot scene because it all just happened real organically and has grown to be one of the better scenes in the country. People use us as a model for how they want it to be in their city. I don't think we could have done that if we tried to force it. It just happened organically. Brought a whole bunch of dudes together who I don't think ever would have met otherwise. And it brings people from all different like vocations. So we've got like so many attorneys and graphic designers, our uniforms, and our like the fact that we have baseball cards and bobbleheads and professional uniforms and posters. It's all seems ridiculous, but it makes it fun. And I don't think you could get that without just a wide swath of types of dudes who end up here. The other big aspect about Tulsa Sandlot that is awesome that we've found through traveling is not the case in other cities is we've been lucky enough to team up with the city and the parks department to take over, like, be stewards of city parks and baseball fields on city parks that had been neglected for decades. And through that, we get to kind of have free reign of those fields in a way that doesn't cost us like fees every month or every time we use it. The other cities that we go to, they constantly complain about it cost us $200 to have this park this weekend and they didn't even mow and we had to do all the field work. If we had to pay $200 every time we wanted to meet up and play baseball, it wouldn't be sustainable here. it just would never happen. But the way that we somehow finagled our way into this thing, we can meet up any day of the week that we want. If you get 5 or 6 guys who just want to meet up and play catch, you can do that without having to jump through a lot of hoops to do it. And that's helped build the community too, because we kind of have free reign. You don't need a whole lot of people to be able to play a baseball game. Which in the beginning that was an issue. We needed as many people as possible. Now that's not the case at all. Now there's so many people that half the time you're just hanging out talking to people, because there's so many people that have to get through the batting lineup and everything, which is a good problem to have, because the scene just keeps growing and just keeps getting better as the years pass. I don't know, not everybody that plays Sandlot grew up as like a jock kid, but there's old man baseball where it's still like beer league softball, where people are getting in fights and people are just acting crazy, because that's like when you grow up playing sports, you're like aggressive and I don't know, you get angry easily. But for most of us, you play that kind of softball once or twice and you're like, man, I don't want to be around this at all. But Sandlot somehow filters out those types of people naturally. It's not even like we're getting in fights and making people leave. It's just the people who have that kind of mindset don't keep showing up. And the dudes who I don't know, are just more chill and want to play baseball and want to be around their friends, those are the guys who stick around. Again, I don't think we could have done that if we forced it. It all just kind of happens organically, and it's good for all of us. When we first started, we only played on Sundays, and a lot of us called it our church because it was on Sundays, but it was also like fellowship with our friends. It's still that. It's definitely, we call it the Sunday services a lot of times when we play on Sundays. Which I think that's what most people get out of church is community and a sense of belonging. And for us, it is that, in a group of people who had lost that more than likely over the years in all the other avenues of their life. So there's something definitely special about that side of it. One interesting side of it for me is that I hadn't played baseball since I was in high school. Never thought I'd go back to it. By the time I was done with baseball, I hated the sport. It was demanding in a way that made me fall out of love with the game. And coming back to it made me fall back in love with baseball, which is a pure American game. I feel like Sandlot has a lot tied to a time in America where the whole community would show up to watch a baseball game because it was the only thing going on. They didn't have TV and radio and everything else, so people would show up. Baseball was like a community sport that is pure Americana in my view. And modern baseball, through Little League to high school, all the way up to the majors, is like a corporation now. But with Sandlot, it's just back to that pure Americana of what baseball began as, and I don't know, there's some beauty in that. But eventually it led to me coaching a high school baseball team, which is insane to me that I'm doing this. I had never seen myself as a coach or doing anything like that. And I don't know, I fell back in love with baseball, and then I found an opportunity to bring baseball to a bunch of inner city kids who didn't grow up playing baseball, and to do it a way that is different than the way I was brought up in baseball, which has been even more fulfilling for me to have that workspace where I feel like I'm doing something that actually matters. Not just with baseball, but just with the kids. That I don't know, making impact in a way that I can't in my day-to-day job, where I'm just like an IT guy doing the same work that I've been doing since I was like 16, to be able to be around a bunch of kids that, I don't know, I love all of them. They make my life better, and hopefully I make theirs better. So I wouldn't have had that without Sandlot either. Um, I just think on the whole, it's a great thing for everyone. And when we travel around to these other places, like even talking to like other players' wives and girlfriends, they're like, he never hung out with friends. He didn't ever like. It's something good for all of us in a way that we're lucky. We're lucky to have it, because I don't think there's any other place where we could get it. We could get this thing.
What emerges from this data set is not a clean conclusion, but a pattern, one that invites interpretation without fully resolving into certainty. At the most basic level, the group is heterogeneous. 45 distinct professions were reported. Even after more moderate grouping, the range remains wide, around 20. It spans trades, technical fields, education, science, law, business, leadership, and creative industries as a whole. This is not a network organized around a single occupational identity or a class position. Instead, it appears to cut laterally across multiple sections of the labor market. The same holds true for educational attainment. The distribution includes advanced degrees, bachelor levels education, partial college experience, occupational training, and in a small number of cases, limited formal schooling. There's no obvious concentration around a single level of credentialing. If anything, the structure suggests a layered rather than stratified composition. Geographically, the group is anchored in Tulsa metro area for the study's sake. But the study is not strictly local. Participants were connected to 21 different cities across 8 states. It introduced a degree of regional permeability. This is not a closed system, it is locally grounded, but not entirely bounded by place. On its own, this kind of diversity is notable, but not necessarily explanatory. The more consequential question is whether and how these differences translate into meaningful interaction. Here, the data becomes more suggestive. A substantial majority of participants report regularly encountering individuals with different beliefs or ideological orientations. For most, this is not an occasional experience, but a consistent one. Such exposure does not in itself indicate dialogue, understanding, or transformation, but what it does do is establish the conditions under which these outcomes do become possible. At minimum, it suggests that this environment does not filter for homogeneity in the same way that many contemporary social and institutional spaces often do. What is less clear, but potentially just as significant, is how these repeated encounters relate to the forms of connection. A large proportion of participants indicate having experienced reciprocity. These are forms of assistance, support, or exchange that extend beyond the immediate context of the activity itself. Similarly, many report participating in social gatherings with individuals they initially met through this setting. Outside of any formal or organized structure, like what takes place when we do Sandlot. Taken together, these responses may point toward the development of relationships that move beyond weak ties. Whether these are the best understood as emerging friendships, networks, or mutual aid, or something more diffuse is harder to determine. The data does not fully resolve the depth or the durability of these connections, but only that they have a presence. Civic behavior offers another layer of interpretation. Reported voting rates within the samples exceed national averages by a noticeable margin, and nearly all of participants express a belief that their actions have a meaningful or positive impact on society. These indicators could suggest a heightened sense of civic orientation or personal efficacy. At the same time, it is difficult to disentangle cause and selection. It is not clear whether participation is the community that fosters these dispositions or whether individuals who already possess them are more likely to enter and remain within it. The direction of influence remains ambiguous. Volunteerism trends introduce a similar tension. More participants report increasing their engagement in volunteer activities since joining than decreasing it. This may indicate a spillover effect where involvement in one form of collective activity encourages participation in others. But again, the data stops short of establishing a causal mechanism. What can be said with more confidence is that this setting appears to concentrate several elements often associated with what scholars describe as social capital. Diversity of background, repeated interaction, and some degree of reciprocity extends the connection beyond the initial point of contact. Whether this constitutes a robust form of social capital or something more contingent and situational is less certain. There is a temptation to read coherence into these patterns, to treat them as evidence of a clearly functioning civic infrastructure. But the data resists that level of clarity. It gestures towards connection without fully explaining it. Cohesion without demonstrating its limits. And perhaps the ambiguity is part of the point. Rather than offering a definitive account of what this community is, the data raises a more open question. What kinds of social relationships are still possible in shared, informal spaces? And under what conditions do they begin to take on broader civic significance? Let's be clear about what Sandlot is and what it's not. It's not a cure for what ails American democracy. Players aren't leaving the diamonds and immediately looking to solve homelessness or fix their school systems, but something else is happening here. Sandlot creates what social scientists call civic infrastructure, the relationships, the trust, the networks that make collective action possible, where the teacher knows the plumber, the banker knows the bartender, and the lawyer knows the line cook. When a local issue does arise, they don't have to start from zero because they already have each other's numbers. They've already practiced cooperation, and they've already built common ground. Our data shows this with higher voter turnout, strong civic efficacy, and reciprocity across lines that usually divide us. But the numbers only tell part of the story, because the real story is in the way that people told us how Sandlot changed how they see their neighbors, how they engaged with their communities, and how they showed up. There's no guarantee that these connections translate into civic action, but they do create the necessary conditions, a foundation to do so. And in an era of democratic decline, that might be the most radical thing we can do. Build places where people actually want to show up, where differences are welcomed and not weaponized, where ordinary people practice self-governance every week, where we remember that before we were Democrats or Republicans, rich or poor, this or that race, that we're all just people who want to play baseball. Putnam told us that we're bowling alone, but Sandlot shows us that we don't have to.